everybody, my name's Eric, and welcome to the Gelcast. This is my weekly WWE recap show that I'll be doing every Thursday. I just want everybody to know after last week's episode, where I had a really long episode, it was a lot longer than I anticipated. I probably won't be going into detail of every single thing that happens on WWE programming each week, but I probably will more likely be focusing on the main storylines and the big news coming out of Raw, SmackDown, and NXT 205 Live. It seems like it's just going to be another throwaway show like Superstars or Main Event were. But so I don't know if I want to be really talking about it much. If something important happens there, I'll let you all know. But anyway, from this point going forward, I'll probably just recap the big storylines and talk about those stories going forward. The big story for Monday Night Raw this week was the New Day breaking Demolition's record for the longest reigning WWE Tag Team Champions of all time. They definitely teased early on in the show that they maybe weren't going to keep those belts to break the record. They won a triple threat tag match earlier against Cesaro and Sheamus and Gallows and Anderson. And we all thought they were going to, well, that was it. We're going to break the record tonight, right? Well, then in their celebration backstage, they end up dumping all sorts of wine, and they're spraying Stephanie McMahon, and of course, which ticks her off. And something WWE always does is Stephanie McMahon will emasculate her talent, so to speak. I don't know exactly why she goes about doing that, but it seems like week after week, if she gets a chance to stick it to one of the wrestlers, that's what they do to kind of play up that authority figure, I suppose. But I'm not a big fan of that. I think you shouldn't make your talent look lesser than you because it just does not do well for the product. But anyway, they stuck him in a match, or she stuck New Day in a match, I should say, rather, at the end of the night to defend the titles again on the same thing on the same show. They must have loved this storyline so much because they did it twice. And the New Day ended up retaining the tag titles at the end of the night against Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho and Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns to finish off the night in the main event. So where did the New Day go from here? I don't know for sure, but if I know WWE, and sometimes it's hard to tell where they're going to go with things. My guess would be that they lose the titles pretty quick. Maybe even this Sunday at Roadblock. That is something that I could definitely see WWE doing. I don't know if that's where they're going to be going, but if they don't, I could see the fans getting really, agitated at them, pretty quickly. A lot of fans haven't liked them from day one just because they got corny, comedy and cheesy lines, and of course the flashy outfits. And it's just kind of like, a lot of wrestling fans, especially older fans, want a more serious product. Now, part of the charm of wrestling is to have some cheesiness in it and to have some corny lines and dumb comedy and things like that. But there's a way of doing dumb comedy, and there's that does not make it absolutely absurd and ridiculous and unbearable to watch. And there's been times with the New Day it has been unbearable to watch, and that's not always been the case. Sometimes they're very entertaining. It just depends on the segment they're put in. Also on this show, we had Sami Zayn wanting yet another match with Braun Strowman, trying to prove himself. Also, we had Mick Foley telling him no, he can't do it, So Sami Zayn was like, well, maybe I should be on SmackDown then. So Mick decided to kind of, offer Daniel Bryan a trade so Sami Zayn can leave and go to SmackDown because Mick was unwilling to put him in harm's way because he knows he can't beat Braun Strowman. Well, it ended up turning out being that Mick was just using it as a motivation tool, and he was never really intending on trading Sami Zayn. I was kind of hoping he would trade Sami Zayn to SmackDown. I think Sami Zayn's a little underutilized on Raw. I think he would be better off on SmackDown, competing with AJ Styles for the world title. I think that could be something that would be entertaining to watch. That match would be incredible, I might add. Or even so, just for the Intercontinental title or something over there. But it ended up being a ploy, and Sammy's going to get his match against Braun Strowman on Sunday at Roadblock, and we're going to see where they go. I would hope that they don't just kill Sammy again. We could very well see the first loss of Braun Strowman, but I doubt it. I think it's a little too early for that. So we'll see where they go, and hopefully, if Sammy loses again, maybe he will go to SmackDown, and but only time will tell with these storylines. Sometimes WWE does not even know where they're going to go with them yet. There was not much of a build for the Sasha Banks Charlotte Women's Championship match in the Iron Man, the 30-minute Iron Man match at Roadblock. Neither girl was on the show really, so I mean we had like a little video package and things like that, but There wasn't much build there, which I thought was a little strange considering the pay-per-view was on Sunday. You would think that they would kind of want to build this a little more, considering it is a historic match for them. They always want to make history. Seems like they want to have the first women's cage match. They want to have, or the Hell in a Cell match, and they want to have the first women's Iron Man match. And I'm sure not too long from now we're going to have a women's ladder match at some point. I would not be surprised with that either. So I was just a little surprised that they didn't build this more. After weeks and weeks and weeks of promos showing that the evolution of Emelina and her return to WWE was going to be coming, and then last week they tell us Emelina will return this week on Raw, and she didn't. That it always bugs me when WWE promotes something saying they're going to be there, this is going to happen, and then all of a sudden they don't. I know the card is always subject to change, and sometimes you got injuries and things like that, but in Emelina's case, I don't think it really has anything to do with injuries or anything like that. I don't know if it was a time constraint or they just decided, well, we'll kind of hold it off again for another week or what it was. But don't tell us you're going to do something if you can't follow through with it. That always makes fans disappointed, and that's never a good thing. Apparently, we are having feuds and matches in WWE now over teddy bears, and I mean, obviously there's a guy involved too, but Bailey and Alicia Fox had a match over Bailey bears, and it's just kind of, it's feuds like this that kind of make you to be a little embarrassed to be a wrestling fan, so to speak. But I mean, obviously the match was fine and whatnot. It was nothing to write home about or anything. And I don't know exactly where they're going to go with this, but it just seemed like the women on this show were not really represented very well because Bailey was the biggest name on the card. Without Sasha or Charlotte or some of the other big name talent, Bailey had to kind of take the reins on this one, and it wasn't bad or anything like that, but it's just kind of a weird spot to be in for the week. I mean, the matches on Raw this week were just kind of, they weren't really anything you want to watch. I mean, they got a 3-hour show here they're trying to fill. Now, the triple threat tag matches were entertaining, obviously. Those guys in there were pretty talented. But the matches in between were absolutely ridiculous. I mean, listen to these. Braun Strowman defeating Curtis Axel. No one cares. I mean, granted, I understand it's setting up the Sami Zayn feud as well. Braun Strowman's going to lay someone out, but I get all that. But, that's a Raw match, and then we got Ariai Daivari, defeating Lindsay Dorado. Again, two guys no one really cares about. I mean, I know they're trying to push this, cruiserweight thing, but it's just it's not working as well as it did in the Cruiserweight Classic over the summer. Then we had Brian Kendrick defeating T.J. Perkins. At least that one set up the title match on Sunday between Kendrick, Perkins, and Rich Swann. That I'm fine with. And then Bailey defeating Alicia Fox as before I mentioned. But then Sami Zayn defeating Jinder Mahal. Again, it's good to build Sami for the feud with Braun. That's fine. But again, we got Jinder Mahal, Curtis Axel, all these guys that they're geeks. There's a bunch of guys that no one wants to watch, and they wonder why their ratings are slumping. Overall, I thought Raw was kind of just there this week. It wasn't anything in particular that you have to go out of your way to see. I mean, they're clearly WWE gets in these modes where they're just kind of going through the motions, especially this time of year around Christmas. They don't really try to advance any storylines or anything like that. They're in standby mode basically until January and the Royal Rumble hits, and even then, at the end of January, that's when they really start kicking it in for WrestleMania. And right now, they just they got the Tribute to the Truth show and just stuff that they're just treading water with, and that's just the way WWE does things in December. Speaking of treading water in December, WWE SmackDown this week. This show, I did not really care for this show at all. I tell you, if you want to see me ever do rants, the WWE recap show every week is the place to do it. On this show, I mean, seriously, the James Ellsworth stuff, I'm about over it. I really just, they're drawing this. I understand why they're drawing it out. They're not doing the Ellsworth versus AJ Styles match right away because AJ Styles has an ankle injury. They obviously set up a title match in a couple weeks, so AJ will be back by then in the show, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. But for the most part, I mean, Miz and AJ Styles, during Miz TV was entertaining. That at least that was the case. But I mean, and then the rest of the show though, it's like Carmella defeated Natalya. At least it set up a little thing with Carmella and Nikki Bella, and who attacked Nikki Bella and stuff at Survivor Series and all that. But then This is where it really bothers me. We have a battle royal for the number one contendership to the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, and SmackDown really does not have a very good tag team division. The only really good team they have is American Alpha, and they get eliminated by a member of the Ascension who no one cares about. They've killed American Alpha ever since they came up from NXT, and it's a shame because those two are really, really good and entertaining to watch. Especially Jason Jordan, who reminds me a lot of Kurt Angle, and I feel like WWE ought to bring in Kurt Angle to manage this team. It would be a perfect fit. But in this battle royal, who wins the number one contendership? Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley, the Hype Bros. Now they are going to get a tag team championship shot against Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt, or Luke Harper. Apparently, they got the Freebird rule apparently with these three, so any two of them can defend the championship at any time. Uh, but the Hype Bros, no one cares. People like Zack to some degree, I suppose, but Mojo Rawley, no one likes. I mean, they why would you even do this feud? I mean, the only weird thing I can think of, and like I said, WWE treads water in December, is because they're saving a good feud for later down the road, and this is just a way to kill time over the next month or so. They aired a promo for John Cena, who will be returning in a couple of weeks on SmackDown. SmackDown really needs his star power at the moment. I really think that's going to be a good thing for SmackDown. I mean, I understand Cena's not really a full time guy anymore, but the way SmackDown with AJ Styles being injured at the moment, which things like that, I'm assuming AJ Styles is obviously going to destroy. Uh, a little spoiler alert for the rest of the show, but Dolph Ziggler, because Dolph Ziggler won the Fatal 4-Way Elimination match for the number one contendership to AJ Styles title. And once AJ Styles takes out Ziggler for the you know 900th time, because Dolph Ziggler, that's what he does. He just gets these title matches and he loses. He never can win the big one. So, and if AJ Styles loses to him, I'll just like this show, I'll just about give up on it. But I can see, maybe after they do this, time filler of a match with Dolph Ziggler and build that up for about a few weeks and whatnot, that I can see them doing AJ Styles versus John Cena again, or maybe Undertaker against AJ Styles. I don't know, but obviously they're gonna have to do something for the Royal Rumble with AJ Styles, and I would obviously they're not going to put Dean Ambrose probably there again, or they better not put Dolph Ziggler in a match with AJ Styles, because I don't care about Ziggler. I mentioned this, when he lost the Intercontinental Championship, he's just been beaten and beaten and beaten, and it's just not going to work if you do Ziggler in a main event, program with the WWE World Champion. It's just not going to work for me. So overall, by putting the number one contenderships on Dolph Ziggler and the Hype Bros, it really ruined this show for me, because I mean Ziggler, obviously he just does not have it to me. I mean he's decent in the ring, but his personality and his mic skills have been better. I'll give him that, and he can put on a decent match at times, but it's just the way they booked him and it's destroyed his career. And what else can I say about him? And the Hype Bros, putting them, when you've got a surefire talented team in American Alpha, which they may be holding that off for later, and that's fine. But if you want us to be invested in the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, you can't keep putting guys that no one expects to win the titles against the Wyatts. The Wyatts and Randy Orton need to just run right through the Hype Bros. I mean, if you want to build credibility for them at all, it should be like a less than 5 minute match, and they should just destroy them, like they did Heath Slater and Rhino. I mean, just do that. And if you want to do that, that's fine. But you need to set up better feuds in the future, otherwise you're going to lose me. WWE NXT this week on the WWE Network. We had yet another NXT Championship match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe, this time in a steel cage. I did think there was a cool spot in here where Nakamura hit the Kinshasa off the top rope. It's kind of a springboard Kinshasa. Thought that was pretty clever and innovative. But for the most part, I feel like this feud has run its course. They had some good matches early on, but after the fourth or fifth or however many times this has been now, I feel like they're just kind of going through the motions, and the matches don't feel as special or as main event worthy for the championship. So I kind of hope that now they said that this is like the final time. You know, they always say it's the final time, and it's never the final time. So I hope that now that this that Shinsuke defeated Joe once again and retained his NXT Championship, I hope that now they will move on from this feud and move on to something else. And please bring up Samoa Joe to SmackDown. If you're not going to bring up Nakamura yet, bring up Samoa Joe to the main roster. Have him enter in the Rumble or something, because you know eventually these guys have got to move up. Otherwise you're going to waste their talents before they get too old. That's just all there is to it. The only other note worthy thing on NXT this week was we had the qualifying matches for the Fatal 4-Way to set up the number one contendership to Shinsuke Nakamura's championship. And the final four that will be advancing is Ty Dillinger, who defeated Eric Young via disqualification when Nikki Cross attacked Dillinger. So he'll be advancing, and that's a good call because Dillinger is over with the crowd right now. They chant the 10 all the time. So even when the refs are just counting on the outside, they're chanting that for him. So he's definitely over with the crowd. Then we had Andrade Cien Almas defeating No Way Jose via pinfall. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Almas. I'd actually prefer No Way Jose in this situation, but that's fine because I could see maybe Almas taking the pinfall in the Fatal 4-Way or something to give the winner the victory. Then we had Roderick Strong defeating Elias Sampson via pinfall as well. And Roderick Strong's a new guy, so they probably want to showcase him a little bit, and that's fine by me. That'll help build him a little bit. And then the main event of the show, we had Bobby Roode defeating Oni Lorcan via pinfall, following a glorious DDT to also advance to the number one contendership Fatal 4-Way. To me, he came off as a big star in this. Obviously, they had him come out last for the show. It was a main event for Bobby Roode. And I've said it from the beginning. Bobby Roode ought to win this Fatal 4-Way and set up a championship match against Shinsuke Nakamura, which could be a very, very good match. And I don't know when they plan on doing that. Probably at TakeOver before the Royal Rumble. If that's the case, that would be an excellent main event for that show, and it would definitely get a lot of viewers. But overall, I thought this week's shows were, kind of weak. There was not much to them. Nothing really newsworthy. I mean, it's just Christmas time in WWE. That's all I can say about it. The NXT show was the best show of the week, as it normally is. It's a short show, and it cuts through all the BS, and it's not as hokey and corny and cheesy. So if you're not watching NXT on the WWE Network, you really should be. And as much as I get on to WWE about some of their programming, WWE Network is worth every cent of the $9.99 you pay a month for it. It's got all sorts of categories and backlogged footage from back in the day and the Attitude Era and WCW and ECW, and it goes on and on and on. So if you're not paying for the network, you really should be at this point. So this Sunday we will be having the WWE Roadblock End of the Line pay-per-view, and just to run down the card real quick here, we're going to have Big Cass versus Rusev with Lana in his corner. Obviously, this is going to be a furthering of the storyline between Enzo and Rusev, and that whole storyline where Rusev just totally destroyed Enzo in the hotel room. This will be Cass trying to get revenge for his good buddy. I could see Rusev getting the win here. I could also see Kaz maybe squeaking one out here. Maybe if Enzo gets involved and comes back from getting the beat down that he got. So I don't know exactly how this is going to go. But I believe this is supposed to be the pre-show match, if I'm not mistaken. Then we're also going to have the Triple Threat Cruiserweight Championship match with Rich Swann defending his championship against T.J. Perkins and the Brian Kendrick. I kind of believe that Rich Swann is going to retain here. I don't think it'll be any shock there. So I don't expect anything major. Then we'll have, of course, Seth Rollins versus Chris Jericho, and the kind of the grudge match, so to speak. And Seth Rollins wants to get over Chris Jericho so he can get to Kevin Owens and thus get to Triple H. I expect Seth Rollins to probably get the win here, just because it furthers the storyline that they've kind of set up. Jericho is just kind of there, I think, to kind of provide a roadblock, so we don't get right to the Kevin Owens Seth Rollins stuff right away. Then we're going to obviously have the Sami Zayn versus Braun Strowman 10-minute time limit match, supposedly. I know Mick said he was going to give him 10 minutes against Braun. I don't know if he meant that literally or if it is just, just he was just speaking in general 10 minutes against Braun Strowman. So we're going to see if that can happen. Like I said, I don't expect Braun Strowman to win this match, but it wouldn't necessarily stun me if Sami Zayn got the first win against the big guy too. Then obviously a lot of this show is going to be the main events, which I'm sure obviously this one's going to take 30 minutes. Is the 30-minute Iron Woman match for the Raw Women's Championship with Sasha Banks defending her championship against Charlotte Flair. I could see Ric Flair possibly even getting involved in this, but I don't. They've got this whole storyline going where Charlotte is undefeated at pay-per-views for I think like the last 13 or so, something to that effect. So I don't know if they're. I think it'd be really stupid to give the title right back to Charlotte again because they've switched this title back and forth far too many times in the last few months. So I'm hoping they leave it on Charlotte for a little while because she's not had a long sustaining run yet. I'd like to see her maybe hold it through WrestleMania, and then you can maybe do some sort of big match for that show. Then, of course, the main event will be Kevin Owens defending his Universal Championship against Roman Reigns. This will be sort of a champion versus champion match, even though Roman doesn't have his United States Championship on the line here. The crowd absolutely just cannot stand Roman Reigns, so I hope that they don't give the title to Roman Reigns here. It depends on where they kind of want to go. Maybe for WrestleMania, I could maybe see that. But I would think, just because based on sheer talent level, I think Kevin Owens has the upper hand here. He's better on the mic. He's more fun to watch in the ring. I'll say that much. Roman's not bad. Don't get me wrong, but the fan hatred for him is just off the charts, and I don't necessarily agree with all of it. I mean, I don't like the fact that WWE has tried to shove him down our throats like the next John Cena or the next Hulk Hogan or the next chosen one or anything like that. But I think it's not Roman's fault necessarily. Roman has some work to do on the mic and things like that. But in the ring, I don't think he's bad at all. He has some room for improvement, of course. But I just think right now, I think it would be best if Kevin Owens keeps his Universal Championship on this night. So I really don't expect Roadblock to be, essential viewing for WWE fans. I think it's just going to be a pay-per-view in December right now. So, I mean, I will be doing a review of that show on Monday, so that'll be up on Monday. So just so you all know, you can check here at the Jailcast for that show review. But barring anything incredible, I don't expect that show to be much more than maybe a B type show for a month. Just kind of setting up for the eventual WrestleMania run which I hope the program will be much better during that time. It usually is during the spring because they always want to put their best foot forward for their biggest show of the year. Well, that'll just about do it for me, everybody. Thank you for watching this video, and if you like what you saw here, please comment and like this video. And you can also subscribe to the Jailcast on YouTube by searching for Jailcast there. You can also find links in the description of this video for my Facebook and Twitter, or you can go to facebook.com/Jailcast, or you can find me on Twitter at EricJail. So until next time, thank you for watching. God bless.